Hi everyone, I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods, tracking a series of storms heading towards California and really the entire West Coast. We're going to be breaking down each one as that storm door reopens. Unfortunately, it's hitting us on Valentine's Day. As you can see, the wet weather timeline, Wednesday, we start to see the return to rain and snow. Mostly showery to begin the day, and then the rain really starts to ramp up during the afternoon and the evening commute. Our snow level roughly at about 5,500 feet. Really, the biggest headline there is we're going to see snow below the passes, meaning travel is going to be slow through the Sierra and dangerous at times, something we'll be tracking again into our Wednesday evening and early Thursday when we still see some scattered morning showers. Things start to dry out for a period of time, and it's going to really be that needed time frame that we have these breaks in between the systems to get all that water going through the water system. Friday, we start to see the overnight rain and snow developing, and then Saturday, a bigger storm starts to head our way. More with moderate impacts, with some ponding on the roadways, some minor flood issues, as well as bigger travel impacts into the Sierra, which starts off the long holiday weekend for the President's Day holiday. Rain and snow return on Saturday with, again, that snow level roughly at about 5,500 feet. We've got a pretty active Pacific going on right now. We've had a nice stretch of dry weather, kind of some time to clean up in between the storm cycle that started off in the beginning of the month. Some really fierce winds earlier this month. Lots of tree damage as well as branches down, even some trees coming down, some power outages. Had some time to clear out of that. And now we're right back at it as we get going into the middle and end of the month. First weather system coming in, giving us roughly about a half an inch to an inch of rain. This is going to be a bit wetter than what we were earlier expecting. In fact, we thought this storm system for a time was going to go north of us, and now it is very much expected to make that beeline right through that I-80-50 corridor, giving us some decent rainfall for the middle of the week. As far as our snow accumulation, we'll see anywhere from 1 to 10 inches at the lower elevations. Once we start to get into some of those higher peaks, it's upwards of about 2 feet of snow by the time we get to Thursday afternoon. And that means we head into this winter storm warning for our Wednesday. That takes us all the way through Thursday afternoon. You can see it right along the Sierra spine here. That's where we're expecting some of the heavier accumulation as well as the higher winds. As far as our winter weather advisory, that'll be in place mostly for the Tahoe Basin, but also along 395 and parts of Nevada. That will continue through Thursday morning for Douglas, El Dorado, Lassen, Nevada, and Mono counties. And then we'll get into that wind advisory as well. But this is going to be confined to the central and northern part of the Sacramento Valley and some of the surrounding foothill locations for Butte, Shasta, Sutter, and Yuba counties. That'll start up early on Wednesday and take us through the evening hours. Once the cold front starts to pass on through, we'll see some lighter winds. This is how things are going to unfold with those winds for our Valentine's Day and Wednesday. Morning commute, it's going to be breezy, but nothing too much that we can't handle. It's during the afternoon that those winds really start to ramp up as the precipitation and that cold front start to push on through. We're also going to see those winds very gusty in the Sierra, upwards of 45 to 55 miles per hour. As we head into the deeper afternoon hours, that's when we really start to see some of those winds moving its way eastward here. Wind gusts over 30 miles per hour in some pockets, especially on the east side of the valley through the foothills. And then for the Sierra, still seeing some gusty winds overnight Wednesday into early Thursday. By the time we get to Thursday afternoon, those winds have calmed and most of the precipitation will be done at that point. But the high pressure ridge that's been over us is going to move to the south, and that's allowing access to all the wet weather to move through. Again, Wednesday afternoon is when we really start to see things picking up, taking us all the way through the evening commute. Much more widespread rain all the way until about midnight on Thursday. We'll see some breaks in there with the periods of some light showers through the overnight hours. But even for this year, we're still hanging on to some of those snow showers all the way through Thursday morning for that commute. If you're trying to get a jump start on perhaps some of the early travel for the 3-day weekend, the best window of opportunity is going to be on Friday. That's ahead of this next weather system. That will be a much bigger rain and snow producer for us. And we're still watching winds with that system. A little bit of uncertainty there on how much those winds are going to be a part of that forecast Saturday and even through early next week. So we'll highlight what we know, and that is periods of heavy rain and snow starting Saturday, lasting all the way deep into next Tuesday. Snow level is actually going to stay roughly at about 5,000 to 6,000 feet. Now we'll see that coming and going up and down the hill, meaning a lot of changing conditions for the Sierra with travel impacts through the holiday weekend. For the valley, anywhere from about 2 to 3+ inches of rain possible in some of the areas. And that's why we're saying ponding on the roadways, some minor flooding could be a potential. A likely wetter scenario shaping up for the middle and end of February all throughout the West and primarily throughout California, but also likely cooler, especially in that pocket right here along I-80 and heading southward into Southern California, whereas the Pacific Northwest is likely warmer. Again, we're favoring more of that super El Nino pattern that we've been talking about pretty much all winter, where we favor a wetter than average Southern California and a slightly warmer than average Pacific Northwest. Out ahead of all this wet weather, the Department of Water Resources is going to be starting to let water out of the Nimbus Dam. Here's a look at some of these earlier releases that we had back in 2022, where we had some pretty decent rainfall, but again, some beautiful sights there out of Lake Natoma and the Nimbus Dam, where we had some water coming out. And really, those releases are going to continue. It looks like over at least through tomorrow. We'll continue to watch how long that stays in check. Now, this is all downstream from Folsom, where water managers really have to figure out the flexibility between flood control and water supply. You can see the teal shape right here. That is our average as far as our capacity and our storage. This is where we are this year. So we started to see everything really empty out, preparing for flood control to make sure that we had capacity for all the water coming in. You can see how that line is starting to move up right along, pretty much in line with how our average capacity and storage starts to move up. Now, here's the total reservoir capacity way up here at the top. We're far from that, but a couple of big atmospheric rivers can fill that particular reservoir up pretty quickly because it's one of our smaller ones, but one that feeds a big population all the way through the Sacramento metropolitan area. So Shasta being our biggest reservoir in the state, that is along the Sacramento River pipeline there, 122% of average, 83% full right now. Oroville, which is on the Feather River, 131% of average, 79% full. Folsom, again, that is going to be just upstream from downtown Sacramento. That's along the American River, 129% of average, 62% full. Want to take it into the Central Valley, where they were particularly hard hit for the Central Sierra last season. And so these reservoirs have been fairly full this year. 140% of average for New Melones, 82% full. 114 for Don Pedro, 82% full. And then San Luis, that's going to be on the west side of the valley, 83% of historical average, 64% full right now. New Melones Lake, take a look at this beautiful drone footage sent to us by Christopher into the ABC 10 studios. And you can see not only how beautifully full it is, but how green all the grass is from some of the recent rain that we've been seeing. It really has been quite a start to February. Let me run down some of the precipitation for downtown Sacramento since the beginning of the month. We hit that stretch where every day from the 1st through the 8th, we had measurable rainfall. And so that contributed to our total to date just for the month, over 2.5 inches of rain. The average at this point in the month should be about 1.65 inches of rain. We had a really great start to February. Nice to see this dry stretch before we ramp up again with that series of storms that will bring us quite a bit of rain over the next 2 to 3 days and even into early next week. Statewide precipitation looking equally as healthy. It has been a real washout for parts of Southern California. We are over 6 inches ahead of average for Los Angeles, over 3 inches ahead of normal for San Diego. Santa Barbara, over 5 inches ahead of where we would normally be this time of year. Modesto, over 4 inches ahead of normal, and Eureka, 5+ inches of rain from where we normally sit at this point in the water year. A little bit behind for Sacramento, Redding, as well as South Lake Tahoe. It'll be nice to get some of this precipitation coming through. The Sierra, oddly enough, after last year, that was one of the big headlines that we had. So much snow for the Sierra. Some parts of the Sierra had record-setting snow. This year, we kind of had a slow start, but we've had some positive snow water equivalent gains in February. What I mean by snow water equivalent is if we were to take that snowpack, melt it down, how much water would we get out of it? It's called our savings account, and we really rely on it throughout California to do a nice job of holding that water when we don't really need it, and then slowly metering out through the drier months to fill our reservoirs and feeding about a third of the state's water needs. And that fills our reservoirs through runoff. And it really helps get us through some of those drier months when we literally don't have a drop of rain or snow. The whole statewide snowpack has really come up quite a bit. We're at 81% of average for the Northern Sierra, Central Sierra 71% of average, and 70% for the Southern Sierra, which for a time was at about 20% of average. So the statewide average to date for that snow water equivalent, 73%, doing pretty good, especially after coming off a very wet year last year. Those early gains for February also helping our drought comparison. We were kind of starting to see that abnormally dry category kind of creeping back into the Sierra here. And so what we saw with this last release is that we had less drought in the mountains. Nice to see that again, because we rely so much on the snowpack for our drier part of the year. All right, here's a look at the wider view so you can really see how some of these systems aren't necessarily impacting Southern California yet. The first one that's coming through on Wednesday, that's going to be largely through the Pacific Northwest, stretching through about Central California. That'll be about it. You'll see the tail end of this just kind of fizzle out as it starts to head towards Southern California. Getting into that next weather system, this is going to be number 2 on Saturday. It once again is going to be affecting the Pacific Northwest through the Cascades and then all the way through Central California. Now, it looks pretty promising here on the southern tail end of this weather system. And we will see some showers in Southern California, but the big one is yet to come. That comes in Sunday through early next week. I want to note how long this weather system sticks around. It hits us overnight on Sunday, mostly a California storm. The low is actually poised just off the coast right here. And we saw this with the last series of storms that rolled through, just kind of sticking around for a period of time. It just didn't want to seem to leave. And this one looks like it's going to do the same thing, sticking through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday throughout the state before finally making its way inland. And we'll start to see those showers affecting parts of the Pacific Northwest. But that Sunday through Tuesday timeframe, again, a big time to head up to the mountains. That happens to be one of our bigger holidays up in the Sierra Nevada. That's going to be some difficult travel there, starting on Saturday and lasting through President's Day. For the foothills, we're expecting areas of rain on Wednesday through early Thursday, a break on Friday. So travel actually into the higher elevations doesn't look so bad on Friday weather-wise. Volume-wise, is always going to be a lot of cars and trucks on the road. But then things kind of turn nasty on Saturday and Sunday into Monday. For the coast, we're looking at areas of rain on Wednesday, a break Thursday, Friday, and then we're right back at it Saturday into Sunday. And you'll see with this 10-day forecast what I'm talking about. Once we kind of open things up with that storm door, we've got 3 systems we're tracking: Wednesday into Thursday, Friday night into Saturday, and then overnight Sunday into early next week. We will keep you posted right here on this extended forecast and through ABC 10 and ABC10.com.